She went under the wheels.
How perfected.
Welcome to Under the Wheels. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Gabe.
And in today's episode, we're talking about Alex Garland's latest film, Men. You good? You okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so full disclosure, I just watched it today, like a couple of hours before
Oh, wow.
recording.
So,
Yeah, so it's...
Austin talking about it was very fortuitous timing.
Actually, it wasn't because the Stephen Tobolowsky stuff, I saw the trailers, so I knew what he was talking about, but I didn't really know what he was talking about until I saw the movie. Luckily, not too much of it went too far. So
Yeah. Well, no, I mean like today.
yeah. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like all of that stuff that he said afterwards was literally coming through on my phone as I was watching the movie. So I was not looking at it until after the fact, which was that's it's for the best. So you're gonna have the terrible BuzzFeed job of like explaining this movie to me, because my rating for it is weird, and we can get into ratings to start as we always do, but I'm gonna give it a weird rating. So I'm gonna give it a rating of all of the components to it are a witness, but for me it was fine.
I'd give it a like high witness, low shiny.
Yeah.
Kind of the same way. I'd say all the components are shiny and chrome, but the overall effect is a very high witness.
So this is why you're going to explain it to me. And I think like in this case, you know how sometimes there's just like a movie that's just not for you? I think this is one of the few times that I've watched a movie that I can appreciate it. I can appreciate it really well, but I think that this movie is just not for me. It's film number 2 in the, I guess, I wonder trilogy of like weird Jesse Buckland psychological weird movies.
It's part 2 in the Jesse Buckley trilogy of movies that make you go,
It's like finally we've gone past like the director as the auteur, and now it's the actress as the auteur of her own career.
Jesse Buckley, it's all Jesse Buckley. It's all her fault.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I'm just imagining watching The Lost Daughter, and it's also like this somehow.
Suddenly it like goes into like, it's like a instead of it being like a flashback, it's actually a hallucinatory trip as to what she thought her life would be like, and like in the sky there's like flying pigs and shit, and it's like, dang, Maggie Gyllenhaal, you're actually a lot more like a visual director than I thought you were.
I know.
Hats off. It took what's his name, Charlie Kaufman, like a couple of movies to get there, but well, not really, I guess. So I guess one of the main problems I have is like it just seemed like a lot of weird shit was happening, and I didn't quite know how the pieces fit together in the movie. So, Gabe, why don't you let's see if you can give us a synopsis of the plot of Men.
All right. So Jessie Buckley plays a widow named Harley Marlowe, whose husband commits suicide upon, her saying that she wants to divorce him.
When she says that she's thinking of ending things.
Fucking hell. Yes. That's exactly what happens. Well, not thinking of it. She's like, I'm going to do it. This time I'm really going to do it. So this time he really does it and kills himself. Which she witnesses, kind of. And so to kind of, as an act of self-care, she rents a large country house for 2 weeks in this small English country town where, it's very pretty and idyllic, and everyone is played by Rory Kinnear, and they're all kind of weird. So she is sort of stalked by various strange happenings within the town, including another Rory Kinnear, who's just like a nude man who keeps trying to break into the house. And then eventually has a sort of dreamlike evening in which she has to fight for her life. Eventually, like, assaults various versions of Rory Kinnear, turning him into a broken wreck of a person. After which, he gives birth to various versions of himself, which eventually turn into her ex-husband, who begs her to show him some sort of affection, which she refuses. And that's the movie.
It is. Also, like, the thing that I liked was, like, all of the injuries were the same as, like, the dead body of her husband that she found. Yeah. I was like, okay, I see where you're going with this.
No, as soon as the hand split, I was like,
that's when you were
parallels.
Yeah.
I see where we're going.
There was a little bit of that with, like, the cut up face, but so one of the things about the movie is that, like, I think you did a good job, like, you did a fantastic job of explaining the plot. And that helped me to decide to, like, understand the ending, because I need the Screen Rant, like, ending of Men explained. So, like, by you saying, like, she does not give him, you know, the love that he is desperately, like, deserving.
Well, not deserving,
like, okay,
but asking for.
As asking for or demanding. That helps. I think, like, so, like, if I had to guess at what the movie was about, I think, like, it's I would say it's probably about, like, sort of like, I don't know, incel men culture.
Yeah.
Like, this whole idea of, like, I guess it's like the idea of, like, blaming women, I think, because that's the only thing that really stuck with me. Like the husband is like, I'm gonna kill myself, and it's because you're divorcing me, and it's like, I don't know. I think, like, your kind of, like, psychological instability and not being able to deal with things in an appropriate way is doing more damage. Or, like, how the priest is like, well, if you let him apologize, then he might not have killed himself, and it's like, I don't really think that's, like, her job to do. So I'm guessing that's the angle that the movie's coming from.
Well, it's certainly part of it. I think, like, you know, I haven't seen Alex Garland's Hulu miniseries Devs.
I haven't seen that either.
You know, I think, like, Ex Machina is very hand-holding in terms of telling you what it's about and what it, like, telling you how to decipher it so you understand what it's saying. But I think that's his only movie to do that. I think, you know, Annihilation and even more so are more, you know, they're more about, like, moods and kind of the sense of atmosphere that they create and telling a story through kind of emotional logic and, like, letting you just sort of feel it as opposed to think about it. Which I think is an improvement generally. Even though I really like Ex Machina, I think that's what makes, like, I rated, you know, Annihilation as the #1 movie of 2019 or 2018, whichever year it came out. It was 2018. 2019, my #1 movie was The Lighthouse. But, you know, that kind of allowing for the audience's subjectivity to guide them. And not saying, like, this is what this movie's about. So, you know, I think on some level, The Men is a movie that, you know, it does give you a lot of very concrete details to latch onto and be like, oh, this is this thing. This is what it's trying to say. But it also does a lot to just create, like, a set of feelings and a set of moods that you as an audience member kind of just tune into. And that is more the experience than anything else. And I think that's the aspect of the movie I like the most, is that it is so moody, it is so atmospheric, and it does all these things so well. Like, it's, you know, it lingers a lot on just the setting and the environment in, it's not quite like Tarkovsky level slow and deliberate, but like it's a Western approximation of that, I guess you could say, where it's like it really just lets you soak in kind of the beauty, but also the strangeness of the wilderness that the town is in, the kind of creepy feeling of night when it sets upon the town, and like there's a shot of Jesse Buckley, in the middle of the road where like the stars and Milky Way are super unnaturally bright in the night sky.
Yeah.
And like that's very striking. The way that the exterior lights of her rental almost like warp reality based on whether they're on or off. Mm-hmm. Really, like, I don't know, it really creates a strong sense of mood. And I think like all those little things are really, really powerful and really well done. And I think that's partly what drew me to the movie. But I guess to your point in terms of like, well, what the fuck is this about? What's going on? I think like there is a huge thread of, men being bastards and blaming women. Like her ex-husband is, this very like emotionally volatile person. Like he's always having these outbursts. He's like, if you divorce me, I'm going to kill myself. He punches her in the nose when he thinks she's hiding something from him, and then like has a breakdown immediately after. And he seems to like blame her for all of it. And the various characters that Rory Kinnear plays, not all of them, but a lot of them are similarly like, scummy or blaming of her. Like he plays various like kind of negative male archetypes. And each of these archetypes in some way like positions her as the bad guy in their worldview. Like there's the kid who's like, he's just kind of weird, and he's like, let's play hide and seek. And then she's like, no, I don't want to. He's like, oh, you stupid bitch, you won't play with me, blah, da, 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 da. Yeah. And like even the priest, who was also played by Rory Kinnear, is like, oh, like don't mind him, he's just a dickhead. But then the priest is like, well, have you ever thought about like, your role in your husband's suicide and what, like what may be your fault? And I think to some extent, like obviously she feels a lot of guilt over it just on her own. It's, arguable whether or not she should feel guilty in any way, but that doesn't change the fact that she does. And in some sense, the priest feeds that because he picks up on it and feeds it. Mm-hmm. And then, later when the more horror-esque sequences start happening, the priest comes back. And he's like saying, he's like, I'm in love with you. Like, I have to have you. What have you done to me? Like, you've made me into this lecherous pervert by existing, So he blames her again for his own, psychosis, essentially.
Right.
So, yeah, it's like all of the men of the town are various, like, they're sort of distillations of ways that dudes are shitty, and they all blame her for their own shittiness, which you could think of it as like it's all thematically linked to her husband, where her husband had his own faults but then like would blame her for them. Mm-hmm. And or it could be like her own sort of internal strife where she wonders, like, am I to blame for what happened? Like, how much of this is my fault? It could be a reflection of how she feels about herself,
Right. Well,
and it's probably both, honestly. Because, like, I think one thing that I found really nice about the movie is at the very end, her friend comes out to see her after realizing she's in trouble. Mm-hmm. And, all of the horror events of the previous evening, like the residue of them is still there. Like there's evidence that they were real and that they happened.
Yeah.
So it's not like it was all in her head sort of a thing. It's like, no, this is like all this crazy shit. It was real. It actually happened to her. But it was also kind of in her head at the same time. So it's kind of this, it has a very magical, surreal quality to it in that respect, where it's like, it's like her own, the movie takes place in kind of a psychological liminal space, but it's also like it actually happened. Right. And like a third party can come in and see like, oh shit, this actually happened.
Okay. I mean, like, this is going to be a case of like, it really just isn't my thing, because like, even as you're talking about it, I'm like, that is really compelling stuff. But this is where it's like an art house film, where you watch certain art house films and you're like, yeah, I get it. And other ones you watch and you're like, okay, I see what they're going for. If it were like a more conventional studio film, they probably would have pushed to have some of this stuff be a lot more explicit. And a lot of it, and instead a lot of it's like implicit. And so like, I think my problem is like, some of the stuff I would have liked a little bit more, because like you were saying, it teeters on the sort of like show don't tell, audience subjectivity. For me, I think it leaned a little too heavily on it, which is, it's like the balancing act, right?
Yeah.
Like for you it worked, for me it didn't necessarily. The other thing is like, the last 20 minutes of Annihilation to me is, for some reason, like, it was just really hard for me to watch. And the last 40 minutes of this movie felt like the last 20 minutes of Annihilation.
That's interesting, because the last 20 minutes of Annihilation
was your favorite part?
It made the movie for me. Like, it just took my breath away. I mean, to this day, like, the last 20 minutes of Annihilation is some of the best filmmaking I've ever witnessed, I would say. At least for me. Like, I absolutely love that section. Yeah,
I just, it's like a number of things that like put me off about it, and I think it mainly has to do with like the sound design. With that said, I'm not saying that the sound design is bad.
Wait, are you talking about Annihilation or Men?
Both.
It's interesting that you go to the sound design, but go on.
I know, because it's like, I think because the sound design is the thing that was the most off-putting. Like, the visuals, of course, were gross, but having, like, not necessarily in Annihilation, but definitely in Men, but like the sound design is the part that, like, with Men, it's like the really over the top, loud, like, screeching violin music, or I guess it wasn't screeching violins, but it was the music was sort of like that uncomfortable horror music. And in Annihilation, if I remember correctly, it was just like a noise and a beating pulse throughout the entirety of like Natalie Portman's final confrontation with
it was like this very oppressive white noise and a shitload of bass.
Yeah, so like that was like in the theater, which, by the way, like, watching this in theaters was great. Like, I really actually, it reminded me of like the whole thing of like, sometimes it is really good to see these sort of like intimate movies in theaters. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but like, Jessie Buckley's a great actress, and just watching, and like Rory Kinnear is as well, but like in this movie in a very different way. But just kind of watching her expressions in those like, one, noticing the difference between her being held at a medium shot and punching in for a close-up, where just like the smallest of emotions get across in such like a large way. And like, you can really understand every subtlety of the performance. And that's where like the performance is crafted, because maybe in another take she didn't have that little eyelid nudge, or in this one her nostrils didn't flare as much, or her look wasn't like that in this. So that's where the crafting takes place. But being able to appreciate how much more powerful the close-ups were when they were used in such a way, and also just like the cinematography was fantastic in the movie throughout to me.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
But
And also
yeah.
the production design. Like,
Yeah.
the design of that house is really striking.
Yeah. I wonder if they shot on a set or if they actually shot in a house. I have to believe they shot on a set because some of those corridors are probably too tight to get a camera in. So I'd assume it was on a set.
I would
watch. I
imagine
look
it was
at
on
I look
set,
at the
yeah.
production, and it's they don't say. But anyway, yeah. So like I found like the ending kind of like unsettling, and as much as I love all of the elements of it, if I had to describe this, I would say it's like the end of Annihilation, but I would also say it's very A24. Like what you were describing about how it's like it has a very like specific feel, a specific emotionality. It's like when I watch trailers for A24 movies, that's what I think of. Like this sort of it's like it's going to be a slow burn. It's going to have a lot of really good, or like a slow build up to what's going to happen in the horror. It's going to be very deliberately paced as well. It's going to have very good cinematography and pretty good sound design. You may not love the score, but you're definitely going to have an emotional reaction to it.
So, what was your emotional reaction? Like, how did the movie make you feel?
Grossed out. I don't know. It kind of made me feel. It made me feel like I was watching a very, very high technically, like a very, very technically high movie. But also with like, I felt detached. I felt emotionally detached from the movie as well. And I don't quite know why.
What were you thinking to yourself about the movie as you were watching it?
I couldn't get this thought out of my head. I was wondering, why were all of the men Rory Kinnear? And also, I was wondering if they would ever explain it. And I'm glad they didn't, but I still had that thought in my head. It was like the first time I saw the birds, and they don't explain why all of the birds are going crazy. I was like, is he going to pull from Hitchcock for this? But because of that, I was also thinking of the birds as I was watching it. But like, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. And I was also kind of wondering, like, where were we going? That was the other question that kept coming up. I was like, okay, what's going to happen? Where are we going? And it's not a long movie. That's the other thing. Like by the time it's like at the point where I was like, all right, so now things must be wrapping up because like it's her sort of like, you know, her nightmare night. I was like, okay, so this is going to be where everything wraps up. And that part feels like almost half the movie, which is not bad. It's actually good because it's like, it's really, really good horror filmmaking. Mm-hmm. But I was kind of wondering, like, where are we going? What's the point? What are you trying to say? What's going on? Why is all of this weird crap happening to her? Is she going to be killed in this and we're just going to be left with sort of like that was weird? Or like, are all of the guys going to be turning into her? The weirdest part, and again, if you want to comment on any of that, I'll let you, but I do want to say the weirdest part was when she was running out to the car and then it cut back to her in the house running. And I was like, is that supposed to be the weird Rory Kinnear dude who's now like, because like she stabbed him, he can transform into her or something? I should have probably prefaced a lot of this with spoilers, but anyway, so those were like my thoughts. And then by the end of the movie, I was just like, so it's about grief, it's about loss. Like, is it about like what? I couldn't pinpoint what the movie was supposed to be about.
What do you think it's about?
I still don't know.
Well, if you were to venture a guess, what would you guess?
I mean, my best guess is probably what I was saying at the beginning was like, okay, so I don't think it's about her getting over her grief, because if that were the case, I think there would have been some sort of cathartic moment, and it never feels like there was that cathartic moment that we wanted. I guess the closest it came to was like when her husband like confronts her about like, I just wanted you to love me, or I just want you to love me. So then I think it's about like, or maybe it's a different kind of guilt where it's like she feels guilty that she caused him to go to extreme lengths, but at the same time, like, then why were all of the guys like then why weren't all of the guys played by her husband? Because in the movie, she pretends like the people don't look like Rory, like they don't all look the same. And then I feel like all of Alex Garland's stuff has some sort of connection to nature. And I can't piece that part together. Like, I don't know, nature's bad and creepy is like, it's beautiful on the outside, but on the inside it's bad and creepy. And they have that shot of like, because they have the shot of the camera that goes into the eye of the deer that's dead, and then it pans out, and once it panned out on the raw, like, decomposing deer, that's when I was like, my wife's not gonna like this. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I honestly, I feel like it's about men being assholes, blaming women, and this is a woman who stood up for herself, felt bad about it, got another chance to stand up for herself, and came into her own.
I mean, I think that's a pretty accurate reading of the movie, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like as clear to me as I would have wanted it to. And maybe it's just because I wasn't in the right mindset when I was watching it. Because, like, the night before, I had just watched Top Gun, which is the most high concept movie you could ever watch. The Top Gun Maverick. It's like, it leaves nothing to the imagination.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's if you had to pull me. But if you did have to pull me, I would say that it took too long to get to that point, if that's the point of the movie. And that's probably why I don't like it as much as I feel like I should, because the process of getting there, I would have wanted it to be different, or I would have wanted that sort of like really lame like revenge fantasy moment where she, like, I don't know, becomes an axe murderer on a bunch of Rory Kinnears. I don't know.
I think for me, the ending fumbled the ball a little bit. I would have liked one last big action from Jessie Buckley's character.
Yeah.
To, I don't know, signify something. That something is changed or hasn't or whatever. I mean, I kind of get why it is the way it is, but I would have liked her to have a little more to do at the end. But yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up pretty well, where it's like she tried to stand up to a man and it all went quite horribly, and she feels quite horribly about it. So then she's presented with another scenario where she has to stand up for herself and does so successfully.
It just feels like really I don't know. And then, like, okay, full on spoilers here, because I really want to pick your brain. What do you think was the point of the birthing scene?
I don't know. I felt that it was pretty gratuitous.
Yeah,
because he just like Rory Kinnear's play. So, you know, he plays various people in the town, but he also plays this kind of primal plant man, like demigod figure, and that character wreaks various sorts of havoc. But then he, he comes back and gives birth to various versions of Rory Kinnear that have popped up through the movie, which it's like they give birth to each other, kind of like Russian nesting dolls. And then they finally give birth to her ex-husband, who, you know, confronts her and does like I only ever wanted you to love me. And she's just, and she sort of, she turns him down one final time. But yeah, the length of that sequence where they just keep giving birth, and I'm just like, how long is this gonna go? I mean, it's weird because it's like when that happened, I was in the theater with like 3 other people, and you could feel the energy in the room change, where they turned on the movie at that moment.
Yeah.
Like they were just barely along for the ride, and then that's when they turned against the movie. For me, for whatever reason, the movie was already so uncanny to begin with that I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this makes sense within the context of what's going on.
Yeah,
I don't know why they're dragging it out for so long, but it makes sense. It doesn't feel out of place.
That's the thing, is like it was so long, and it went through like all of, I guess because they wanted to go through all of the major characters.
Yeah.
That he was, even though they didn't go through all the major characters.
Well, they go through the boy, the priest, and Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Which is, that's kind of all the major ones.
Yeah. I guess so. I always think of the
cop.
The cop, yeah. The copper.
Copper.
I actually, so as you were talking about it, it reminded me of something I thought about in the theater. I was wondering if it actually has to do with if there's some sort of and here we go, and here's the groan, some sort of Bible allegory, because he was almost like they talk about oh, you're not supposed to eat the apple, it's forbidden fruit. Just kidding. But also, as the apple falls, it rots away. And I'm like, oh, that's something to unpack. And then they kind of like a serpent. It's not really like he's giving birth. It's more like he's shedding one skin over another. And the reason I think of it as shedding skin is because each time he emerges, oh God, he emerges from the asshole.
The previous one gets deflated.
The previous one gets deflated, and he still has the same injuries. So whereas if you're birthed, generally you're like, oh, okay, I'm a new body. In this case, it's almost like I'm the same body, but I've shed my skin. So maybe it was like shedding skin as the serpent, and her getting down to the bottom level of this metaphor. I don't know. That's something that crossed my mind. I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's a serpent and it's an apple and an allegory, but unless I really put my mind to it, which I haven't, it'd be hard for me to come up with okay, well, what is the symbolism of it? Well, it's sort of it sort of acts as sort of the, there's a lot of hatred against women, and a lot of them use the Bible, and they use Eve eating the fruit when seduced by the serpent as sort of the reasoning of when women first messed up, and therefore all women are bad. And so I'm wondering if it's looking at it that way, and also pushing back against it, because obviously this is pushing back against sort of the sort of that idea of mansplaining, I guess, as we're mansplaining this movie.
I think that's definitely something to think about, because obviously there is a pretty major scene in a church where she cries and wails over her grief and guilt about her husband passing or committing suicide. And we're first introduced to the altar in that church, where on one side it's the plant man's face, and on the reverse side it's a woman with her legs spread open.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it suggests a lot of things without really ever explaining it. I mean, obviously, the man and the woman being on the same altar on opposite sides, they're kind of two aspects of the same thing. Giving birth is obviously a very feminine concept. So the fact that this man is giving birth to various versions of himself. Again, it's that sort of duality, two aspects of a single object. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it kind of dresses itself in a religious or folkloric context. I don't know necessarily how to interpret that or what to think about that, because it didn't really conjure anything for me personally, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. It felt like window dressing. where it's like, oh, look, isn't this deep? And it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe if I think about it longer, it will be. Like, I'm interested because I will say, like, peel back the curtain, when I'm editing the episodes, I'll know that we have something really good and compelling because I'll want to go back and rewatch the movie we're talking about. So if you're ever like, Matt, why did you rewatch that movie that we just talked about?
Why did you rewatch
edited?
The Rise of Skywalker?
It is literally your fault that I like that movie.
Now I'm racked with horrible guilt and must go
to a country
vacation
village
to deal with it.
But who would be the
survive an assault of various horrifying versions of Daisy Ridley, I guess?
Oh my god, that would be amazing. I mean, like, not sort of like the gross, like, oh yeah, being surrounded on an island of Daisy Ridleys, but like her playing a bunch of like different like weird characters that you have to fight. So, all right. So we've talked about some of the deep stuff. Actually, did you want to talk more about some of that deep stuff? Because if not, we can get into some of the corny stuff.
I mean, I'm trying to think because it's like,
and we can always circle back.
Why does Rory Kinnear play everyone?
So I have a theory about that from a production standpoint. But what do you think? Like, symbolically for the movie, what do you think it is?
Obviously, yes. I think it's a gimmick, but
I don't think it's a gimmick. Well, I do, but in a different way.
I think it's partly a gimmick to help sell the movie, but I think another part of it is like, I think it's one of those things where like a lot of the material it's working with is kind of archetypal. Like even its overtures to religion they're not meant to be too specific to Christianity. It's more like just like archetypal overtures to religion, like things that would be common across multiple religions, not just Christianity. And Rory Kinnear plays all these, like I said, archetypes of kind of lousy men, or just like mixed bag sort of guys. Even like Jeffrey, who's very like, you know, a nice guy on the surface.
I mean, who would be afraid
shows
of a
genuine
Jeffrey?
Concern for other people and things like that, but eventually is like, I'm gonna kill you.
I'm gonna yell in your car.
Yeah, like, you know, they're all archetypes, so it's like, in a sense, having them played by the same person takes away any sort of specificity that they would have as like human characters and makes them more archetypal in that way. It's kind of like going back to our pre-podcast discussion on Neon Genesis Evangelion, like, you know, it's full of all these references to Christianity, but those references are used in an archetypal way. They're not meant to be like strict usages of Christian icons and ideas, but it's more like, you know, it's like in a Carl Jung hero's journey sort of sense. You know what I mean? Like,
go ahead. Sorry.
Like these are all kind of like psychoanalytic symbols buried in human consciousness, where no matter where you are.
Right.
And that's how they're used in that show. And I think that's kind of how Rory Kinnear is used in this movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, and I think like going back to the beginning of when we were talking about the movie, it also adds to the dreamlike sense of being in the village and helps to make it feel more like a psychological allegory. That's basically what you just said. So I'm just repeating you at this point. I think that from a production standpoint, they were shooting during COVID, and it was one of those things where they're like, you know, we only need to have 2 actors who have passed COVID tests, and then like you said, we can use it as a gimmick to sell the movie, and it can act as sort of like it can be an added layer. Because like I think of, speaking of Charlie Kaufman movies, I think of Anomalisa, which is definitely one of the weirdest movies I've seen. And how every single character who wasn't Anomalisa like
is played by Tom Noonan.
Yes. Yep. Good pull.
Tom Noonan is amazing anytime Charlie Kaufman is signing his paycheck.
What else of Charlie Kaufman's has he been in?
He was in Synecdoche, New York.
Okay, which I still haven't seen, and I know I should. Was he in? He wasn't in. I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Was he? No, he wasn't.
I don't think so.
But like those are the kind of vibes I got, where it's like he sees everyone as the same person, but at the same time he addresses everyone as different people, which I always thought was interesting, and I kind of was wondering if they were going to have that going forward in this movie. And the fact that Jesse Buckley's character never directly comments on it makes me think that maybe it was kind of like to serve a similar purpose, but also from a production standpoint.
I mean, obviously with Anomalisa, it's like it serves a very different purpose in the sense that I think everyone being played by Tom Noonan is more a reference to how the main character, David Thewlis, is, alienated from everyone around him and kind of has this issue with how he views the world that like erases the humanity of all other people.
Right. Yeah. Or yeah. He's above everyone else, and he thinks like no one is at his level, and therefore they're all just
not even above
Tom
everyone
Noonan.
else, but just sort of removed from everyone else.
Yeah,
because he obviously doesn't think very highly of himself in that movie. He's very depressed and kind of in the dumps. Although depression can be very egotistical.
That's what I was gonna say. It feels like on this episode of Under the Wheels, we talk about Anomalisa. I don't know. It's weird because Anomalisa is one of those weird movies that like, one, very play-like, but also it really stuck with me in a really interesting way because I've never seen puppet. I didn't watch Team America, so I've never seen puppets have explicit sex. I was not ready for that. But the way that the movie was constructed, I mean, I think you can be depressed and suicidal and still think you're above everyone.
Kind of, yes.
So that's why
depression, I think, in terms of its own, like causing people to collapse inward.
Yeah,
is I think it was David Foster Wallace who called it like the selfish disease or something, which is very telling from a man who suffered from lifelong depression and killed himself.
We shouldn't be laughing at that, but like I just don't know. Like sometimes you make these polls and I'm like, God damn, Gabe, God damn, good poll. And that's one of them. And like, yeah, it's so like a different effect, but it is a strong effect to have one person play every role, and not in sort of like the Peter Sellers way.
Yeah, not in like the hey, isn't Peter Sellers hilarious and talented sort of way, but like this actually set. Like it's like, oh yeah, we do live in a society sort of way.
I should have said Mike Myers because like can you imagine like instead of Rory Kinnear, I know we were spitballing with Austin, like he said like Stephen Tobolowsky, but can you imagine Mike Myers as like Jeffrey and then as like the police officer? I would love that. And then as like the kid. It would have been a choice, is what I. That would have
been a triumph if Mike Myers played all those characters.
I feel like it would have gone like. I feel like Alex Garland would have looked at his cut of the film and just been like, "Burn it all.
It's not working.
Take my name off of it." It would have been too comedic. It's like as he's driving the car as Jeff, he's just like, "Yeah, baby." Like, oh god. Indeed.
I think one of the things that I find really interesting about this is that it's like. This is the second A24 horror movie that I've seen, written and directed by a man, told from a woman's perspective, that really just like puts dudes through the ringer. Like Midsummer really shits all over what's her face's boyfriend.
Yeah,
and, like, his punishment for being like a so boyfriend is death, like, which is crazy. It's just like
it's not just death either. Jack Raynor, which sounds like an awesome sci-fi character, because it sounds like Jim Raynor. Oh my god, burned alive in a bearskin suit after like forcing him to have sex with oh my god.
Yeah, it's like was the relationship good? No. Was he a bad person? No. Is he toxic? No. Not really.
Yeah, I guess not.
I get that Florence Pugh's character is traumatized by her like psycho sister murdering her parents and all that stuff, but like it's not her boyfriend's fault that happened. No. It's not on him to save her or rescue her. Like he can be understanding, but that's kind of it. And if it's not working out, it doesn't work out.
I think that's why I don't like on this episode of Under the Wheels, Midsummer. I like Midsummer. I feel even less emotionally attached, or even more emotionally detached from. I mean, because I really don't like I don't like Midsummer because I don't like the inciting incident that gets everything moving, and then from there, I just cannot.
I thought the inciting incident was actually the best part of the movie because it's genuinely shocking and horrifying.
Oh no, I mean like getting
kind of.
I mean getting her to go on this trip. I absolutely I can't. I just it's so for lack of an eloquent word, it's so stupid to me that like I just can't. I'm like I'm out. I watched the whole thing and like, you know what? Speaking of men's penises that we see, good on you, Jack Rayner. But like Midsummer was what, and I love Florence Pugh. I think she's a great actress. I always enjoy her in whatever she's in, but like I just do not like Midsummer. And it's not even like the violence and stuff in it. It's just like that initial. I know you want to have characters making choices in order to make the movie compelling, but God, his like he should break up with her. Oh, I invited her on the trip, and I'm just like the choice is too devastating for me. Where I'm just like I can't do this.
Well, I think for me the issue with Midsummer is it's too flat of a movie. Like there's not enough going on that's interesting. Whereas like Hereditary is just wall to wall excitement. Like
yeah,
it is so galvanizing as a movie that like I don't know, it has this very infectious energy. Like you go in, you watch it has this crazy weird sense of humor. All the horror sequences are filmed with a lot of like enthusiasm, and that becomes infectious when you watch it. Like it's a very exciting movie, whereas Midsummer just kind of drags. It really dragged for me. But back to bring it full circle to Men.
One last thing about Midsummer. The only thing I like better about Midsummer than the other movie he did was the cinematography is like the sort of like oversaturated cinematography is still gorgeous. But yeah, I'm with you on. I can't think of the name of the movie. Oh my god, I'm terrible. All right, Hereditary. Yeah, Hereditary. It's just like really great. Okay, so anyway. Yes, going back to Alex Garland's.
Yeah, so it's like this is the second A24 movie where it's like men bad, the end. But at least in this, like the men are actually pretty shit.
Yeah.
Like
I don't love the men in Midsummer, but yeah. But
well,
I think more
like
they're annoying.
They're more just annoying in Midsummer. In this, like, you know, you've got the ex-husband who's mentally unstable and manipulative and violent. And then, you know, in the various Rory Kinnears who are actually trying to kill our main character. So it's like more understandable why they all get some sort of comeuppance. But
right.
I don't know. It's just interesting that like both movies written and directed by dudes, highly gender-driven subject matter, very negative towards men, very positive or understanding towards women. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. It just something to think about.
Well, and it's nice that they're out there. You know, that movies like this are out there. Again, I was telling my wife that I do find it interesting when you have like one thing I struggle with when I'm doing any sort of writing exercise is I have trouble writing women, but I think women do a better job of being able to write men than men do to write women most of the time. And I think Like my thing is like I think that women are able to bring this is going to probably sound like sexism and mansplaining and whatever, but like to me, I think
start white knighting right now.
Yeah, probably. But like I think the ability to bring sort of like emotional vulnerability to men is important, and that's something that I think women do better than men. Whereas like with men, when we write women, we're like, and this character is Xena Warrior Princess to varying degrees, which, you know, there's a place for that, you know, Wonder Woman, we all like. But I think I think it's a bit more of a challenge for men. And one of the things that's nice about movies is you can become really collaborative and be able to like bounce ideas off the actress and help use that to shape kind of the character and make the character feel more real or less like a cliche. You know, the cliche of like, oh yeah, she's smart and she's funny and she's pretty. You know, it's like, okay, well, there's more emotion, there's more depths to people than just those things. So, but I also think that, like, to your point, as a guy, if we can really be like conscious about looking at other men as well as inwards at ourselves, because I know that Midsummer was a very like personal movie about like dealing with breakups and things like that.
Yep.
And we can look at how we are both good and bad and be able to take those parts of us that are bad or that are toxic or that are, you know, an issue, and be able to like, you know, crank it all the way up to 10 and then find a way to excise those demons in the form of writing. Even if those demons still remain on a personal level, we can at least address them and find a way to kind of understand what's bad and how we can repair them. Mm-hmm. If that makes any sense. I know I went on a really long rambling rant, but I do think it is interesting, like that both Midsummer and men do a really good job of sort of like beating down or being very blunt about some of the problems that men have in society. That sounds generic.
They're going full on woman Joker. We live in a society.
We live in a patriarchy, bro. Jesse Buckley playing the Joker. You know what? I'll take it. I'll take that. That's fine. I wonder if you do like you do like a gender bend where it's like she's still playing the male Joker, but it's Jesse Buckley playing it. Like,
you just have to like accept that.
Yeah, just like it's fine. Like, I think that'd be. I'm looking at the Wikipedia picture, and she's like got the red hair and the smile, and I'm like, all right, let me just Photoshop this quickly, paint her white, give her really red lips, and yep, there it is. It's the Joker. With like a stylish hairdo, but she's there.
Didn't you already do that for another title card?
Yeah, I did. I did it for...
Which one was that?
Jodie Comer for The Last Duel.
That's right.
And I put Ben Affleck as Batman in there, and he's out of focus. Because I have no standards. Like, as an aside, the reason I put Madness in Comic Sans on the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness one is because Comic Sans is like the worst font ever made. And like usually people put it on there, like people who don't, not that I know graphic design at all, but generally speaking, graphic designers don't put it on, but a lot of people use it. Like a lot of people who are just trying to put something fun out will put it in Comic Sans because it's like a fun font, but it also is apparently like to font writers is like one of the worst fonts ever. So yeah, that's the reason I use Comic Sans.
Anything you've just said, but okay.
Just remember, if it's printed out, use serifs. If it's not, go sans serifs. It's a rule of thumb. Anyway.
I feel like I'm reading the spirit right now.
The only other thing I wanted I thought about on Men was, what did you think of the visual effects and special effects?
Kind of sus, if we're being honest.
Sucks or sus?
Sus.
Okay.
Like they're almost there, but they're pretty wonky, which, I mean, like I said, I think that contributes to its uncanniness, where it's like like the kid with Rory Kinnear's face just kind of crudely pasted on. It's like, this is weird as hell, but it does mentally prepare you for the birthing scene later, which is interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like, generally speaking, I really liked the visual effects. Apparently my standards are way down. I like the visual effects in The Northman. I like the visual effects here, but I like Uncanny Valley Rory Kinnear as a kid. That made me laugh. I was like, this is goofy.
Yeah, it is pretty goofy. I mean, it works and it doesn't work. I think obviously some of the effects that are excellent are when you have a bunch of Rory Kinnears in the same room.
Right.
Like that was executed flawlessly. No problem with that. But yeah, the kid is like,
yeah. So
it's
like
rough.
This movie. So I think Alex Garland uses visual effects really well, generally speaking. Obviously he had a lower budget for this, so like with Ex Machina, which I think they won Best Visual Effects.
Yeah,
for that
the visual
movie.
effects in that are incredible.
Yeah. The thing is, like, he's also smart about it. So, like, you can tell he used the Rory Kinnear face as few times as possible on the kid. And, like, that's why he had the mask to start. It's like, okay, well, that's going to be easier to, you know, like, oh, we'll put the mask on. And then the kid that we hired to be the body double or to be the on-screen body can do whatever he wants. I'm also wondering how many practical effects they use. Like, with the hand, I'm wondering if that was like a practical hand that was just like moving around and wiggling around. So I'd be interested in a breakdown of like what was practical versus what was digital. But overall, I thought like his use of when to use digital effects was smart, even if not all of them panned out as well as they should have. Like I have this, I want to say like in order to differentiate the faces a little bit, like the priest Rory Kinnear, I wonder if he went in and like shrunk his nose a little bit because it just looked like slightly off. So yeah, I'm just like, I think if they come out with like like the visual effects of men, I'd be interested in reading up about that because especially like the birthing scenes. It's like, oh God. Or like in the description, they just call him the naked man. Like digitally inserted a cock on him. No, I'm just kidding. That's another, like, good on Rory Kinnear for like being able to play these different unquote characters, but also just like the amount of nudity in this movie is just like, man, good on you for
that's just him. It's only his nudity.
Yeah. Speaking of like bridging the gap between
well, and the ex-boyfriend or ex-husband for like 2 seconds.
Which might just be the ex-husband's face on Rory Kinnear's body, but you know, I'm just kidding. That's the other thing is like I don't know. I was thinking like I'm just glad they don't have like a blackface Rory Kinnear in this movie.
Oh my God, that would be so bad.
She like opens up the door and it's like Asian Rory Kinnear doing his best Mickey Rooney from Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Oh, yeah, that would be very cringeworthy.
That does not happen for people who are listening. It's just like, let's see. Yeah, I thought I'm interested to see what special
that
effects
does not
there
happen. It's just a Marvel's What If.
It's even worse in cartoon form. It's just like, oh God. Yeah, overall, I the sound design was good. I guess we've kind of danced around the performances, but like I thought all of the actors were good, except maybe like I didn't love the ex-husband.
I thought both actors in the movie were fantastic, because they're kind of it. Yeah, I mean the ex-husband, he does a solid job. Obviously, he doesn't have a lot to show off with, and neither does her friend.
No,
but I mean, Jessie Buckley and Rory Kinnear are fantastic. I don't think there's anything wrong with the other two performances. It's just they're serviceable. Boilerplate.
Yeah,
I mean boilerplate in how they're written. Like they're not given anything special to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think like, I don't know. I think whenever you talk about an actor's performance, you also have to think about like, okay, well, how is the character written? You know, what were they what kind of material were they given? Because some people are given a chance to shine and take it. Some people are not, but they shine anyway. And some people are just just be the cog in the machine, and they're like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of curious to watch the other Jessie Buckley movie that's on Netflix that's directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal with Olivia Colman in it.
Oh, The Lost Daughter?
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to watch that just because like I find her a really compelling actress.
Sure you do.
No, like I thought she did a great
really
job.
Good actress.
I thought she did a really good job in this. I thought she did a really good job in I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Like I didn't even know who she was, and I was just like blown away by her character in it. And I guess she's the main character in Chernobyl, which I haven't watched either. But I'm also like secretly hoping that The Lost Daughter is like a weird like psychological movie that's like I'm Thinking of Ending Things with Men, and I can like firmly stamp this trilogy that I have in my mind that
I mean,
just
if
like
she could
pioneered
become
by her.
like you know how like Micah Monroe is in all those like 80s inspired slasher type movies like The Guest and It Follows. Like if Jessie Buckley could be that for surreal psychological horror movies, that would be pretty cool, I'd say.
I think that would be good. And then she's like in a random Marvel movie as like, I don't know. I'm running out of like Marvel
Superman's
female
pal,
characters.
Jimmy Olsen.
Oh no, we already cast her as the Joker. That's right.
We have way too many people cast as the Joker.
That's why they keep making Joker movies. And like
I know.
the irony is like they always cast the wrong people. Like I don't want that kid from freaking Dunkirk as
Barry Keoghan.
Yeah, Barry Keoghan.
Barry Keoghan's not even in Dunkirk, is he?
Yeah, isn't he? Yeah, he's the kid who dies. Spoilers for Dunkirk. Remember,
When?
he's on the boat. Isn't that him?
Oh yeah, he's Mark Rylance's
son's
ward or
friend.
whatever. Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
Okay,
And he's like,
it's all coming back.
yeah, Cillian Murphy like shoves into him and he falls and is like, I can't see, and like, yeah, and then he dies and I was like, all right, because you're annoying. No, I'm just kidding. It's never good when a character dies in a movie, unless his name's Cassian Andor, as you will inevitably hear when we talk about it at the end of this episode. But yeah, Barry, I don't know. I just think Barry Keoghan's like, I don't get it. It's just like the kid who was in Midsummer and was also in like We're the Millers, and he's going to be
Poulter.
Yeah, I don't get him. I don't understand.
I don't. Yeah, I've never really been like super impressed by Will Poulter as an actor. He looks really strange.
Yeah,
like he's never bad in anything, but I've never seen him as like, oh, this guy is, he's like A grade actor material. It's just like, oh, he's good in the part that he was in. Which, I mean, he's going to be in a Marvel movie now, so that's really all Marvel cares about. It's like, can you just play the part? I don't think anyone's saying, Chris Hemsworth is a brilliant performer. He did Thor well, and that's kind of it.
You know what, dude? That first Thor movie, he is excellent in. And then
Everyone's
after
excellent
that,
in that first Thor movie.
That's true. That first Thor movie's people don't like the first Thor movie. I love the first.
People
Thor
sleep
movie.
on the first Thor movie, but that movie's really good.
It is. I'm surprised to hear you say that. Well, we're both kind of Kenneth Branagh fans, I guess.
Well,
so.
Thor 1 is one of my favorite Marvel movies, and
Is it
obviously,
really?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
How
The
have we
fact
never
that
talked
it is a
about
Marvel
this?
movie caps its potential of how good it could ever be, but
Yeah.
I find it immensely entertaining.
Yeah, I still think that like I would have wanted a bit better of a fight at the end, but I like the ultimate conclusion of like he destroys the like I think him destroying the Bifrost to sacrifice any chance he has at happiness on Midgard is like I like that. I like that choice. I don't need him to duke it out with Loki for control of Asgard. And then also like
Anthony Hopkins is beautiful. just his line delivery is
but Jeanette
king.
The only thing I don't like about that movie is the cinematography. I think the cinematography is okay, it's serviceable because they have that one moment where it's like they have a really weird Dutch angle on Loki as he's descending the staircase. And I guess this is more of a problem with editing, but the reverse shot of the Warriors 3 with Sif, by the way, the fact that the Warriors 3 are in it and they're like kind of a big component is fun too. But they cut back to the Warriors 3 and it's just like a very standard 4-shot. And then they cut back to the Dutch angle of Loki and I'm just like, what are you guys doing? And then later on, or earlier, I guess, they have that like circular shot that like became a really bad cliche for a while where like everyone was doing the circular shot to make it seem like this scene of people talking has energy. And I was just like, what are you doing, Kenneth Branagh? You directed Hamlet, where it was just like all long takes and they were all like really intricately designed. What is this ass that you're putting on screen right now? But yeah,
I'm sure he had a much tighter schedule for Thor. And you got to remember, he didn't just direct Hamlet. He directed like the crackhead Hamlet.
I think he actually, yeah, he might have had less time for it because when Marvel Studios started out and they weren't owned by Disney, they probably had like, I know they had a lot of production deals. I know I'm putting you to sleep with this, but I know they had a lot of production deals with like other companies, but they were also like much tighter budgets. So you're probably right. He didn't have like the 5 months that they have now to shoot these movies.
But yeah, Thor 1, best Thor movie, one of the best Marvel movies, no doubt.
Yeah.
You're a vain and cruel boy.
I love Jeremy Renner, but the Hawkeye part in it is probably the worst part of the entire movie. Like, which is saying something because it's
crap.
It's in there, it's shoehorned in, and it's fine. But like, because I'm looking back at the movie and I'm like, God, Patrick Doyle's score for that movie. Like all of Patrick Doyle's score, I never remember the actual music, but I always remember how it feels. So I appreciate that. Since we're talking about Thorcast. But anyway, how did we stop? Why are we talking about Thor? Oh, right. Will Poulter being in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time before they shoehorn Rory Kinnear in one, I guess. Unless he's already been in one. This is me trying to bring it. Oh, by the way, Men, Mission Impossible Fallout. Did you know there's a connection?
No, what?
They're shot by the same cinematographer.
Oh.
Yeah.
And who is that?
Rob Hardy, who's English and I'm like, I know he's not, but I desperately want him to be the brother of Tom Hardy.
There's a lot of English Hardys is the issue.
Okay. Well, go ahead and just ruin the last name of Hardy for me, Gabe. That's fine.
You no longer Hardy for Hardy?
No, I am not. I do not have a. I'm not even gonna say it. I think we went through everything I had for Men, and I say it weird because like where I don't know. I just say men weird when it comes to things like that. Do you have anything else to say about this latest Alex Garland movie? Was it worth the wait from Annihilation to Men? I think that's a relevant question. Was it worth the wait for you?
I mean, I don't really pay too much attention. I don't know. It's like I'm not a. It's not something I really think about.
You're not an Alex Garland stan where you're waiting for his next book and screenplay and movie to come out.
No,
I guess not because you haven't watched his miniseries.
I am. Yeah, exactly. I haven't seen his miniseries. I don't even know why. I really wanted to and just never did. Probably because I don't like TV and I don't like miniseries as an extension of not liking TV.
I actually like miniseries better than seasonal television.
I know there's an end point way more than television, but they're too reminiscent of television for me to really like. It takes something like Maniac for me to actually want to watch a miniseries.
Yeah.
And Maniac is like one of the best things ever. It's like the best thing Netflix has ever done.
Not Stranger Things?
I don't know what that is.
Wait, really?
No, what is it?
Stranger Things? Wow, dude. It's like the thing that everyone is talking about on Netflix. Like always. They're like, man, Netflix has gone downhill. Except for Stranger Things, which is like Stephen King meets Steven Spielberg meets the 1980s meets pop culture of the 1980s. Where
This
it's
just
like
sounds like a generic, like, sludge. I don't know what you're talking about.
it's where Finn Wolfhead or whatever, like that's what he's known for, and what's her name? Oh my god, I can't think. Millie Bobby Brown.
I don't know who that is.
She plays like 11 in that. She was the daughter in Godzilla King of Monsters, which has an amazing music score, and Godzilla versus Kong or Kong versus Godzilla.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just fucking with you. I know what Stranger Things is.
So much right now. Oh my god.
How could you just, like, you can't escape Stranger Things.
You know what, Gabe? You're the only person I know who might be. Well, no. You and my brother might be the only people I know who possibly could, because my brother still doesn't know how Game of Thrones ends.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, good for him. It's better that way.
Oh no. He's gonna find out probably within
I've never
next.
seen a second of Stranger Things. I don't really know what it's about. All I know is it's like you said, it's Stephen King meets Steven Spielberg. Remember the 80s, yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm. If you throw Stephen Strange in there, we get all the Stevens.
Little Lord Fauntleroy. Is there anyone named Peter in that show?
Dr. Steven Stranger Things. There probably is. Let's see.
Peter.
Stranger.
Peter.
Directed
Let me show you how to braid this
Savage
rope.
Steve Holland. Let's see here.
You're a wizard who braids rope? Oh, sorry, wrong movie.
Oh my god, there is no character named Peter.
Oh, that's too
Well,
bad.
there probably is, but no main character.
Okay.
That's right. Of course you know what it is, because you know who David Harbour is.
I know who David Harbour is.
Yeah, he was that guy in No Sudden Move.
They're trying to make him into Ron Perlman, even though he'll never be Ron Perlman. No one will ever be Ron Perlman.
You know what? He's great in No Sudden Move. Like,
he is.
Steven Soderbergh. Oh my god, dude! If every episode of Stranger Things was directed by Steven Soderbergh, can you imagine how much different it would be?
It would be different.
He's like, why are there visual effects in this movie? What's with these aliens? Let's get them out of here. I'm not shooting that. I can't shoot every episode in a day.
Spielberg directed, or sorry, it's not Spielberg. Steven Soderbergh directed Stranger Things like The Limey. I would watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, it's like season 4 ends with like the actual first episode of season 1, and you're like, what the heck? It's like it's a series shot in reverse.
He takes the entire season, like, it's like 8 1-hour episodes. Each episode is chopped down to like 25 minutes.
Oh my god!
Because it's all just so like elliptical and leaves so much out.
Dude, if Steven Soderbergh directed this, he would have directed every single season in 1 year, and then just cut all of the episodes in a random order and like figured out how to make a.
And I'm sure, it good or bad, it would definitely be interesting.
It would. It would certainly be something. Dude, that would be amazing. I was gonna say, if like Steven Spielberg directed Stranger Things, I'd probably watch it, just because I'm here for his camera moves.
You have just the biggest crush on Steven Spielberg's movies.
Honestly, if someone came up to me and they're like, you can shadow Steven Spielberg through the creation of his next movie, and even if his next movie is like total shit, I would still be 100% there. Like,
what if his next movie is just like Tom Hanks talking at the camera for 2 hours in a folksy accent?
You mean by the way, that remind me, Elvis movie and Dune, and also I would watch that. I would watch Steven Spielberg direct Tom Hanks talking at the camera for 2 hours in a folksy accent. I could deal with that.
With no camera moves.
Oh god, no. Nope. Because even in like, okay, so if you ever rewatch that movie that you hate, Ready Player One, it's amazing how few cuts are actually in the movie. Like, there are entire scenes that I thought were done in a way where it was like shot, cut together. But like there are whole moments when it's in the quote real world where he's just like, I'm just going to move my camera instead. That's how I'm going to edit this thing. So I don't think he can make a movie where he's just not doing camera moves instead of editing. I don't think it's a possibility.
I mean, that's why Steven Spielberg's always going to be a master of the craft.
I mean, yeah,
because I don't know. He just like intuitively knows how to make even the worst shit cinematic.
He's like a master at blocking like no other. Because I know that in college, like, and this is going to peel back the curtain for a lot of people, and I know we've gotten way off topic, but in college, I was so obsessed with finding a way, and I know it won't sound like it, but when I started out with like film and media and doing movies and stuff in community college, I would shoot things where it was like, all right, this happens, we got that shot leads into my next shot seamlessly. So I'd never really done anything that was shot reverse shot. So I was like, all right, I have to at least one point like understand how to do this shot reverse shot thing and edit into it so that like I can change the pacing of dialogue and stuff. And I've done it so much that it's like warped my brain. And now I really want to get better at something that's just like a completely lost art in Hollywood, which is doing like really good blocking and just having the camera move to help address and accentuate the blocking. Because like if you can get the camera involved in the process of the blocking of characters, it makes the whole shot so much more cinematic and so much more interesting to look at. So
it's what separates movies from TV
in
many respects.
Yeah, it does. Now, with that said, one of the reasons I like Marvelous Miss Maisel is because the camera work in that movie and that show is like fantastic. Mm-hmm. It's one of the few shows that does master shot style filming, which drives all of the actors on it to like the ends of the like they want to kill themselves because it's just like, hey guys, we have a 12-hour day with synchronized swimming time to you walking around a pool and delivering these funny lines. Have fun. It's like, oh my god, dude. All right, we should get wrapping up soon anyway. But the first thing I was going to say was they have cast Fade Rotha in Dune Part 2.
Oh, wait, who's playing him?
The guy who's playing Elvis in the Elvis Presley movie. The only person with a more punchable face than Timothée Chalamet.
I guess it works.
Yeah, if you take a look at him, I mean, at least as far as like the thinness of his face, he looks definitely thinner than Timothée
Well, it's just
Chalamet's.
like, you know, Timothée Chalamet and Fade Rotha are supposed to have this climactic sword fight. So it's like, I guess you would have to think you're going to cast someone who Chalamet, visually, you could believe him overpowering, which is tough.
Yeah.
That's why I was thinking, like, they may just want to go the opposite route and discard all realism and just cast, like, I don't know, Yoel Romero or something as Fade Rotha.
I mean, it would be a choice, but it does make me excited for it. Like with that, and Florence Pugh is in the movie as Princess Aurelian, and Christopher Walken is in the movie as the Emperor, which just feels like really weird stunt casting, but I'll go with it.
Could work.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know who
they
you
should
would
have cast
choose
David
otherwise.
Lynch as the Emperor. That would have been amazing.
Oh my god, dude. Oh my god. I didn't tell you this, but my brother bought me a copy of Dune, so I'm gonna read
the book or the film.
The book, because I've been wanting to reread it since we talked about it on the podcast. So
nice.
I have
like
that
that cool collector's version with all the drawings and stuff.
No, it's the standard one that looks like a reprint of a book from the 60s.
Oh, okay.
It still looks good. It's like a modern-ish sort of like retro 70s vibe kind of going for it. If you look up copy of Dune, it's probably the one you're thinking of. But
okay.
it says like, you know, now a major motion picture, but it doesn't have like a production still of like Timothée Chalamet looking drugged out. So it's fine. There was something else about the Tom Hanks thing. Oh yeah, that's right. That's basically what it was like the guy in Elvis, because Tom Hanks is playing like this really weird, he has like a really weird accent and really weird prosthetics in the Elvis movie. And it makes me really not want to see it at all. And I probably won't, because I'm not a ride or die Baz Luhrmann fan. It just
Is anyone even just a fan?
I think so. I mean, I have to assume that they are out there. Just because his style is so him. I think people are drawn to sort of like his eccentric style.
Like, okay, Strictly Ballroom is a really good movie, but that's it.
Is it because it's his most restrained movie?
It's not even that restrained. It's just like done sensibly, I guess, is the way to put it.
I feel like there's like a train wreck quality to it. Like kind of like a sort of like a perverted Steven Soderbergh effect where it's like it's going to be interesting, or it's like it's going to be bad but in a very interesting way. And like sometimes that bad isn't that bad, but like for me it generally, like I just don't vibe with it. Like I can appreciate what he's going for in Moulin Rouge. I can appreciate what he's going for in The Great Gatsby, and yeah, it does help like contextualize the novel, and also his casting is generally pretty. Like, I generally like the people who he casts in the movie if I don't necessarily like how he casts them in his movie, if that makes sense.
Like, you like all the people, but they should all be swapping roles or something?
Yeah, I don't know if I... Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know if I yeah. That's... Yeah, you hit it on the head. I'm just thinking of, like, that's probably the first movie I saw Elizabeth Debicki in. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. She's in that. And in, like, the minor role of Jordan, who's a cheater. And they don't comment on it in the movie at all, which is, like, that was a big plot point in the... Well, not a big plot point, but that was an interesting plot point in the book. But anyway. That's not a problem with Men, which is, like, really well cast. So...
Mm-hmm. Well, they only had to cast 2 people, so...
That's
they found
true.
2 really good people for it.
Do you think Jessie Buckley's going to be, like, the new... Kate Blanchett?
I don't know. Something tells me it won't happen, but it would be nice if she had kind of a moment, you know, or at least like just carved out a really good niche for herself in this art house stuff.
Yeah. Kind of like a Toni Collette, where like Toni Collette's like seen as like really good in everything she does now, but for a while actually I hope she doesn't follow Toni Collette's trajectory, because she kind of like was in a couple of decent things, but never was like the person to watch. And now she's like, oh, well, if she's in it, you know, she elevates whatever she's in. So,
well, I think people who knew Toni Collette, like, brought up whatever she was in, even if it wasn't great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because she's been in a lot of like kind of bland indie dramas where it's like the only reason to watch it is like, oh, Toni Collette's really good in this. Mm-hmm. Like she was in one movie where she's trying to find like her high school boyfriend who vanished or something happened to him. So she goes on this search with like Thomas Hayden Church, who I think has like a crush on her or something like that. You know, story-wise, the movie's whatever, but she's great in it, and Thomas Hayden Church is great in it as well.
The one movie where, like, I think she's serviceable, but the movie itself I really like is The Way, Way Back, because she's just kind of like the mother who's kind of like at a crossroads with her kid, and she's like kind of whatever in it.
She's that in a lot. A mother at a crossroads. I mean, she's that in Little Miss Sunshine to a degree. I mean, the whole family's at a crossroads in that movie, but
that's true. I'm trying to. There was an actress I realized like recently had transitioned from like. From being like the actress who was a character to now just like always going to be cast as the mother. And I'm trying to think of who that was, aside from like Jennifer Connelly, who's like finally starting to show her age. But anyway,
it's funny. Toni Collette went from being the mother and everything to being like the female Willem Dafoe or something.
That's true. That's true. Like, God. And now, anytime you see her, she's just like nuts.
Oh yeah, she always plays someone completely unhinged, and it's like this is the Toni Collette we've been missing. I think. Yeah. We've seen her do really well as like normal people. Now she has to just play insane people.
God, thank God for Hereditary.
Yeah, I know.
God, Who was her husband in that? I can't like.
Gabriel Byrne.
That's right. Yeah. Gabriel Byrne.
So good in freaking Miller's Crossing.
I know. We should do a Miller's Crossing episode sometime.
Well, yeah, we need to do a Star Wars prequel episode. We need to do a Miller's Crossing episode. We have a few that we need to do.
Yeah. Are you planning on seeing Top Gun Maverick?
I mean, I might. It's just everyone says it's good, even though like it just looks like shit. It's getting rave reviews somehow. I'm just like,
I'll tell you why after we're done.
Okay.
But do you have anything else to say about Men? Should we start wrapping up the episode?
Yeah, I mean, Men it's great. It's like a high witness to me. I think it's less than the sum of its parts, but like the parts are really, worth admiring. I would say just for people to, don't say it.
What?
There is a part worth admiring.
No, I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna make a really dumb car analogy.
But I think people should see it. They should see it with an open mind and just, be willing to just like sit like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like,
so
just be willing to like go with it and interrogate how you think about it and how you feel about it and see what that brings up. Because I think that is the way to experience a movie like this.
I will say that like I'll be interested to listen back to this episode to see if it improves my opinion on it. I agree with you. It's like the parts of an Aston Martin in a Corolla body, but it's like, all the parts go there and it works and it's beautiful to look at and ride, but it's like, that was my bad car analogy. But
I will Ford Fiesta.
It's a blue Ford Fiesta with the heart of an Aston Martin. But the one thing is it's very gory and very graphic in a very unsettling way. So if you're not comfortable with that kind of thing, then you should definitely stay away. Other than that, I think it's probably worth exploring. So, yeah. I mean, like I said, for me, my reaction wasn't as high, but it's definitely it's worth checking out just to see the fantastic editing, and the color timing is fantastic in the movie. The sound design is great, the music's great. It's like Alex Garland knows how to put a movie together, even if some of it gets muddled.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to interact with us and tell us that we were right and or wrong, what would they do, Gabe?
You can email us at video@underthewheels.com. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, leave a rating, leave a comment, all that jazz on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you find us. Underthewheels.com is our site where we have all kinds of content, other reviews, thought pieces, things that don't really make it to the podcast. Might try to get something up about the rebuild of Evangelion.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Just because it's Neon Genesis Evangelion's a really interesting and really good anime, and then this sort of redo of it is a very, it's great on its own, but it's like bizarre production history, and I think kind of its execution is also interesting to think about as well.
Okay. Thanks again to Mike for the music. And with that, I'm Matthew.
And I'm Gabe.
And you have just been Under the Wheels. Dude, to be fair, I'm so glad Riz Ahmed gets so much work, because he got so much backlash for his whole British television won't cast me, and now he's been nominated for an Acting Academy Award, and he's won an Academy Award too in the short category. It's You know what, Riz Ahmed, you be in Venom as much as you want to, and you keep winning those awards. God damn it.
Riz Ahmed is his career is pretty interesting, because he's the most niche, one of the most niche acting skill sets I've ever seen, where he's He's
pathetic.
excellent at playing. Well, he's so good at playing like this one type of like desperate, bug-eyed, like weirdo on the fringes of society in everything, and he does it really well. But it's all he does.
Honestly,
it's like
he was
It's like you know how The Rock plays the same thing in every movie.
Yeah.
It's like, what if The Rock was good at the one thing he did? He would be Riz Ahmed. Like
so
Riz Ahmed's
basically
really good at the one.
So
thing
basically,
he does.
you're saying that Riz Ahmed is the George Clooney of his niche.
He is the George Clooney of his niche. Yes, like George Clooney is the boss. That's what he does. He plays the boss in every movie, and he's fantastic.
Yep.
Riz Ahmed is like this desperate, crazy person trying to survive in a world that like has no use for him in everything, and he's fantastic. But only is that.
You know what? I'm 100 because like Rogue One, you know, I'll just say I have a love and hate. Everyone always is like, I know you hate Rogue One. But Riz Ahmed was like a surprising bright spot in that movie. Like
his eyes are like ready to leave his skull at any moment in that movie.
Well, he was one of the only characters I actually was rooting for in that movie. And he gets like one of the worst death scenes in the whole goddamn thing. Like, man, fuck this movie. At least let him live. He was actually good. Him and Forrest Whitaker, man. Forrest Whitaker fucking owned that movie. Like,
dude, Forrest Whitaker
in everything
was
now.
so disappointing in that movie.
Lies. Forrest Whitaker is the only good thing in that. Well,
I wanted so much more of him in that, and I wanted him to be so much crazier than he was.
So the problem is that there wasn't enough. That's a good problem to have.
Exactly. Like the biggest problem with Rogue One is they're like, oh, we're a dark and gritty like Star Wars spy movie type of thing. But they're not. Like they try so hard to tell you that they are while being like just a dumb, goofy shoot 'em up.
Yeah, it's dark. Like I call it.
It's like be dark and gritty. Don't tell me you're dark and gritty.
Yeah. It's dark.
And it's like the way you be dark and gritty is just give Forrest Whitaker's character the floor and let him go nuts at all times. Stuff it full of Mads Mikkelsen. And have Jyn Erso kill Cassian at some point. Like that's all. That's what you got to do if you want to make it interesting. Dude, but no, they're cowards.
This is the problem with Disney, right? Like it's like, okay, we're gonna make a spin-off show to Rogue One. One, Jyn Erso could have been a very compelling main character, but she's boring. Two, yep. Cassian Andor is literally the worst. Like literally the worst trademark.
He is the least deserving of his own Disney show out of all the characters in Rogue
And
One.
he's the old, like, dude, you know what they should have done? They should have given a Disney show to Alan Tudyk's character, Tudych.
Yeah, they should have given it to the robot.
To the freaking droid. He
or
was like...
even friggin' the Ip Man guy.
Oh, Donnie Yen and the other dude would have been better. Yeah. Riz Ahmed's character, like, have him somehow survive, make a series about him. But there's nothing to do with his character. It's like... He would just be a guy living on the fringes of society as a guy living on the fringes of society. But like out of all of the characters, the one I care about the least is Cassian Andor.
Oh yeah. No, here's how you make Rogue One interesting, okay? You
take the script and you throw it in the trash can. No, I'm kidding.
Well, yes, you do that first. But you set it up so that Jyn Erso and Cassian and their whole crew are trying to find Jyn Erso's dad to get the Death Star plans, right?
Yeah.
And instead of having Mads Mikkelsen come in the middle, you have him come in towards the end. So it's like you kind of have a parallel storyline of Mads Mikkelsen doing his thing. You have Jyn Erso and pals doing their thing, running around, trying to like infiltrate the Empire, going deeper and deeper. You have some foreshadowing from Forrest Whitaker when he's like, you know, what will you do when they catch you? What will you do when they break you? Mm-hmm. Like if you go all the way, what kind of person will you turn into? Mm-hmm. And so, like, to infiltrate the Empire, Jyn Erso and Cassian and all their, merry men have to, like, do more and more morally questionable things to get closer and closer to the Death Star to extract Mads Mikkelsen. And then when they do, like, kind of your third act turning point is, you know, Cassian, Jyn Erso the whole time thinks they're going to rescue her dad. Cassian has orders to assassinate her dad, and those are secret. So the big turning point conflict is Cassian. Cassian and Jin rescue Mads Mikkelsen, and then Cassian's gonna kill Mads, and Jin Urso kills Cassian.
Yes.
That's your big moment.
Yeah.
Like, she has to turn on her. She has to decide if she's gonna protect her dad or stick with her friends, and she has to choose. And I think it would make more sense if she chose to murder her friends to save her dad and they escape.
So do you think she should murder all of them or just Cassian?
Just Cassian, and
So,
maybe she has to cover it up.
All right, so
and
if this
then
is...
and pretend to everyone else oh, he died during the mission, and play it off like she didn't kill him. Meanwhile, maybe Alan Tudyk's robot has his suspicions. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of, the rest of the movie deals with kind of the fallout of that, this inner group betrayal, things going kind of sour, but they do get the Death Star plans out, so the mission in that sense is successful.
What about...
But Jin Urso has to kind of, betray her own morals and turn on someone who she actually does care about in order to get it done.
Yeah, and you have that one moment where they could just completely destroy the Death Star and save a planet full of billions of people. Fuck it, let's just call it Coruscant Beta or something, where it's just filled with billions and billions of people. Or she sticks to the mission and doesn't do the right thing. She does the right thing for the mission, but in doing so, this whole planet has to die because she's got to commit to her role, and she does. And so then she's dealing with that. And so, her father eventually finds out. And then you even have that moment where her father's looking at her is this the Stardust that I raised? She's not the same character at the beginning of this movie that she is at the end, a good screenplay.
It's a character arc, guys. Yeah, that's so much more interesting than whatever the fuck they did.
Well, but the problem is that'll never happen, because Disney will be no, we have to make it clear.
No, because it's a good idea. That's why it'll never happen.
Well, they're Kathleen Kennedy would be oh wow, this would have been great, for a Spielberg movie targeted at R-rated audiences, but our Disney overlords are going to tell us we need to not make it morally ambiguous at all. It's got to be crystal clear who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. We can't have Cassian and Jin Urso falling in love and becoming best friends and potential lovers, and then she has to kill him, even though that shit's always the best. It's always good.
It's always the best. Yeah, and she kills him in self-defense, so it's
no, fuck
works.
that, dude. I guess defense of her father.
So it would be
she has to make a cold and
Cassian pulls a gun on
her
her dad. Her dad's unarmed.
Yeah.
She puts herself in between them, and Cassian's get out of my way or I'll shoot the both of you. So she just shoots first, It's the Han shoots first because at the end of the day, he's colder than Greedo.
Right.
But by the way, in Lego Star Wars, there's a whole little mission where you have to collect eyewitness accounts on who shot first.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
So
dude, when the Lego Star Wars games are so much more in touch with the
what's good about Star Wars.
Finished.